Polaroid. Guarantee. Polaroid. 660. Guaranteed. Alright. Hello there. I'm Freddie Westman. And today I'm here to tell you about the latest and greatest camera that the fine folks over at Polaroid have cooked up. The Polaroid Autofocus 660. The Polaroid Autofocus 660. Now I bet you're wondering, well, Freddie, it's a Polaroid camera. Why? It probably works exactly like every other Polaroid ever has. Well, yes, you are basically right, but, you know, I mean, just for this is your first time here, you know, you pop open the front, load a film pack, and away you go. I should have hung myself when I had the chance. Perhaps that's a bit unkind, though. There's something that makes this little magnificent marvel just a smidge different from its plastic brethren. Note the golden circle located next to the lens, which is a single element 116mm focal length with an aperture permanently affixed at f11, if you're curious. This right here is the key to what makes the autofocus click. Well, that and the shutter button. Oh no. Does it really? It works. Yes, we all know that the SX70 has adjustable focus, and it is a Polaroid, so, you know, it's not like this is the first one that focuses. But, I mean, come on, this one can do it automatically, and it uses sonar like a freaking bat. Or a dolphin. Those are probably the only two animals that use sonar. All you have to do is just make sure that whatever you want to focus on is pretty much dead smack in the middle of your viewfinder. Release the shutter. Wham bam, thank you ma'am, Bob's your uncle, presto. Yeah, you got a perfectly developed, perfectly focused, perfectly exposed exposure. Every single time. Ready to be filed away for future nostalgia or just to hand out to your friends at a party. If you have those. I don't. Friends or parties. I wonder if anybody got my note from last time. Suppose time will tell if time even passes in this. I mean, I guess I do have a way out. And that's the Freddie Westman guarantee. Welcome to Camaraderie, the channel where... That sounded weird. Welcome to Camaraderie, the channel. This episode is sponsored by Echo the Dolphin. On the menu today, we've got the Polaroid Autofocus 660. It's a sonar-powered, autofocusing little plastic beast of an instant camera. My pal Freddie Westman actually let me borrow his review unit for a little while just so that I can review it. And this is the review. It functions like pretty much every other Polaroid of this era, with the very notable exception of being able to autofocus. It achieves this by indiscriminately blasting the world in front of it with sonar, and then it measures the distance of the sonar, it comes back and hits it in the center of its little receiver thing, then it adjusts the focus accordingly, or at least that's the idea. This beautiful black boxy block was released in 1981. 9 years after the SX70, 5 years after Polaroid sued Kodak for patent infringement, 4 years after the ill-fated Polavision, and just 1 year before Edwin Land was forced out of his own company. In my eyes, that might just make the Autofocus 660 one of Edwin Land's last great contributions to photography. Food for thought, perhaps. Film for thought. As Freddie mentioned, the plastic one-element lens has a focal length of 116mm and an aperture fixed at f11. The shutter speed ranges from 1/4 of a second all the way up to a 200th of a second. Admittedly, not great specs, but I mean, do you really expect more from a Polaroid that isn't the SX70? I mean, besides, it does also have a flash that you can disable. Or just not enable, I guess. This little secondary shutter release. The red one charges and uses the flash. This little second one back here, kind of the half shutter is what I've been calling it to myself. The half shutter allows you to take a picture without flash, which, you know, that's honestly more than I can say about some cameras. Looking at you, Kodak VR 35K12.
All you do is aim and shoot it. Kodak VR 35. I love this camera. It's new.
It's a Polaroid, as I think I've mentioned once or twice. That means everything, all of the electronics, all the flash, everything is powered by the battery that's inside of the film pack. Since the only viable film that's readily available is the stuff from the project formerly known as Impossible, you only get 8 shots a pack. Pretty much every Polaroid of this era was designed to go with 10 shots a pack. So your film pack is actually empty when the counter on the back of your Polaroid reaches 2. So just something to keep in mind. I'm assuming that the new Polaroid One Steps and all the other newer cameras that are out under the Polaroid name have an accurate counter, but I wouldn't know because I'm just a millennial hipster trash bag that pretty much only shoots with vintage gear. So apparently there's a little like gray button on the bottom of the flash bar up top that lets you shoot without autofocusing, and instead you just rely on the f11 to hopefully get the job done. But that seems like an extra step and is I don't know why you would do that. It's not like you can control anything else about the camera. So I mean, you can't control the aperture or the shutter speed, so I don't know why you wouldn't want to control. I don't know, man. Anyways, Freddie actually did me the courtesy of loading up a pack of film before he lent it out to me. It's just a regular color 600 speed, you know, pack of film that you find for these cameras. I do have an extra pack of black and white instant film, which I've actually never shot before, but bringing that along just in case I run out of shots. I absolutely will. So let's go shoot. I shot over Memorial Day weekend, mostly just to make sure the camera actually worked. But once I started the review process, the first place I went was a little part of Richmond called Carytown. This shot of the flamingo actually turned out, I mean, it's a little overexposed in the highlights, but I was trying to focus on this pink stuffed flamingo, and yeah, the focus actually impresses me because it worked how it was supposed to. A few days later, I asked Selena to just drop me off somewhere in Churchill, and I'd kind of just mosey on back home from there. I used to be a massive history buff, but, you know, a little bit less so now, but one thing I love about Richmond is how much history there is here. Plenty of reprehensible things were done here. Yeah, I mean, you know, it was the capital of the Confederacy after all, but it's just cool to see random signs like, oh, Thomas Jefferson and Benedict Arnold traded blues here 240 years ago. Or like, oh no, this house was made 160 years ago. You know, stuff like that.
And with that, I don't know if you can see that, but oh, not really. Can you? Yeah, so right there with the new Impossible, or the new Polaroid packs, there's only 8. As you can see, there's only 8 per pack, so, you know, time to switch it out. Of course, as soon as I load the black and white film, there's this dope little scene with a purple door and a blue sky and green leaves and art. Classic.
On this walk, I wasn't in the museum district or the fan district, which is where a lot of the really, really cool houses are, but there's still plenty of row housing here that I think looks pretty neat. And because of the row housing that you find all throughout the city, Richmond, to me, kind of feels like northern cities a little bit, like Buffalo or Boston. Yeah, just all the row housing and very walkable and old, but it's still very much a southern city.
This building is pretty cool. Lots of concrete and curves, and there's sidewalks are uneven, but you know, it's fine, it's cool. Yeah, I have no idea what this place is, but it looks pretty tight. Oh, can I go up there? I don't know. Maybe. That's a pretty nice view of the city, though. This all calls for extreme telephoto, but I don't have an extreme telephoto lens. Yeah, not telephoto enough. Still cool though. It's hot as balls, but I'm gonna go all the way up to that cool building. Walk around, go to the train station, and then head back home. Yeah, it's a pretty dope building. Chug some water, get a sweat out of my eyes, and keep going. Oh my god, shade. Continuous shade. I really should have worn some sunscreen, SPF 1000, but silliest named district part of town, and honestly probably one of the coolest. Lots of cobblestones and like layers and dope architecture, and I'm about to die of heat exhaustion, so I'm gonna take this last shot and go home.
And this last shot actually wound up being my favorite of the bunch, maybe my favorite Polaroid I've ever taken. Everything just lined up right. I really should have scanned these rather than shoot them on my DSLR, but just trust me, the focus is crispy and the highlights and the shadows play nicely together without having a total drop off on either side of the spectrum. And these couple birds decided to take flight right as I pushed the shutter button, which gives it a nice bit of movement and life. Now, if you're like me, some of those shots were pretty underwhelming. However, when one picks up a film camera, especially one that came out over 40 years ago, and especially one that was never meant to be used as a precision instrument, I feel like one should temper one's expectations. Now, don't get me wrong, loads of iconic photos have been made with Edwin Land's tools, yes, but these are not precision instruments, man. They're just not. They're made for capturing moments in an instant and giving you the result quicker than McDonald's can fart out a McDouble for you at the drive-thru. That's part of their charm. That they're there in a flash, or not a flash if you press the little half shutter button. It's instant nostalgia, and I think there's a certain beauty there and a respect that should be given to these irreplaceable moments. You're not making art, you're making life. I mean, but again, you can obviously harness all of its imperfections and peculiarities and go buck wild with Polaroids and just like make them sing your song artistically. But it's expensive as balls these days, and at $20 for a pack of 8 shots, that like each one of those little square frames is like, I think it was a math workout to like $2.50 for each shot. Yeah. If you're using Polaroids as like a means of artistic expression that you would like to sell, you can use that to your advantage, because like they're irreplaceable, they're one of a kind, each one is unique looking, they are not what's the word I'm looking for? Not repeatable. That's not the, I mean, they're not, but like, they're not reproducible. And the medium itself is expensive. So if you do want to sell your memories and these little moments of time that you will never get back, I feel like you could probably charge a pretty good premium for them. I don't know what the market is like for buying other people's Polaroids, but I think if you approach it as, art, I think, I think I've kind of gotten off script. Definitely, actually, no, I wrote that potential for a segue into my script. Look at me go. This part is totally not scripted. I feel like I'm starting to get into territory that would be better addressed in a separate video, another video of its own. So I'll just leave y'all here. Yeah, I'll be on this side of the lens in the next video. So until then, see ya.